What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Okay, we're going back to back with some TNA videos. I was actually going to go with the Slammiversary 2012, as I felt that I lacked in TNA content from the later years. Well, in the end, I decided to do this. As you can see here, the quality of the stills and the videos themselves, the clips, they ain't on par with what you're used to. That's because of the fact that Impact does not have any of the episodes from the late 2000s and the early 10s on their subscription service. They don't got them on Fight and all that, so it is what it is. But the pay-per-views are of high quality, so there's that. I was going to wait until they added them, but I figured they're never going to add them, and I want to make a bunch of videos, like Main Event Mafia, the loner version of AJ Styles. I want to make a bunch of videos about those things, and had I waited on them, I just don't think they would have posted them. Expect more TNA content from the later years to be coming. Like I said, Main Event Mafia, Bobby Roode's World Championship reign. Also, comment down below what TNA videos you guys want. I'll definitely add them to the list for future videos, so yeah. Okay, this one, Hardy's Redemption. You guys most likely know about the story of Victory Road. I think there's 100 videos on it on YouTube. Hardy came out all intoxicated and was clearly unable to wrestle, and it was disrespectful to the fans, the TNA staff, and most importantly, Stink. Because of this, Jeff went on a hiatus to get things together, and upon his return, he wanted forgiveness, and this led to a feud with Jeff Jarrett. The program wasn't a bad way of bringing Hardy back to the company, and it marked the start of his redemption arc. You know, it would conclude with Jeff Hardy winning the TNA World Championship later in 2012. I'll definitely dive into that story, but this is the first chapter in that series. Okay, enough talk, let's get into it. On the September 8th, 2011 episode of Impact, Jeff Hardy made his long-awaited return. First of all, he brought back his old song signaling a face turn, you know, modest. Fans were certainly happy to see him. Well, I take that back. You can hear some boos. He thanked them for the applause, but felt that he didn't deserve it. First of all, I thank the network for allowing him to be here, and Hardy discussed the tragic events of Victory Road. The main event match was with a guy he looked up to, and he completely squandered it. Jeff didn't blame the fans and the guys in the back for their displeasure over what went down, and simply put, he hit rock bottom. It was looking like he was emotional, said that he didn't expect anybody to forgive, let alone give him another chance, but all he could do is ask. One more shot intensifies, and the quote of the day was, "All I can do is ask." It felt genuine to me. Hard to say it wasn't. Jeff had a huge sense of guilt on his face, knowing very well that opportunities, let alone forgiveness, doesn't come easy. It was the beginning of Hardy's redemption arc. As expected, Hardy's return wasn't met with open arms. AJ Styles didn't want to deal with, let alone look at Hardy. He thought it was selfish and unappreciative of the fact that Jeff Hardy almost destroyed the house that he built. It was like taking money away from his family. You know, any bad publicity that the company was getting was from Hardy's wrongdoings. Before the segment ended, AJ told him that there may never be a time and place for them to be together. Spoiler alert, there was. Devon, meanwhile, was on the opposite end of the spectrum. Despite this, he was warning Jeff not to screw up. Al Snow followed through as well, but again, warned Jeff, telling him, do not mess up. He also suggested Hardy work his way up from the top in order to seek forgiveness. He did just that by confronting Kurt Angle. The TNA World Champion didn't even want to look in his direction, shouting that he should be gone. Hardy thought it was ironic of Angle to judge him on his problems, because, you know, Angle's got problems of his own. He believed that Angle didn't want him here because he's a huge threat to the title. Because of this, Hardy went into hiding for nearly 3 weeks. The words and storyline clearly affected him. Once he made his return, Kurt Angle was completely incensed with the thought of Jeff Hardy being in TNA, and so Eric Bischoff was preparing to get rid of him. Hardy comes down to the ring and for the first time in 7 months went face-to-face with a leader of Immortal. Bischoff said that he had the honor of working with some of the all-time greats. Hardy, to him, had that God-given ability to perform, but he's also one of the biggest screw-ups in history. In his eyes, there was no more chances. He was done. Jeff admitted that some of these people may agree with Bischoff, and before he left, he wanted to say one more thing. Bischoff, however, wasn't willing to accept anything other than goodbye, but instead Hardy said twist of fate. The reason why he did that was because he didn't want to leave on their terms. He wanted to leave on his own terms, and he was livid. The following week, the charismatic Enigma decided to provoke Immortal again by saving beer money. He kicked ass and took names and even hit the twist of fate on Jeff Jarrett. It was looking like James Storm didn't want the help from Hardy. You know, he's all angry over this, whereas Rude accepted the handshake. In the end, though, they both raised his arm, so there's that. A few minutes later, Jarrett confronted him, saying that, you know, he's out there since the beginning of TNA. Not many know about the friendship they've got, but despite this, he's out of chances. He's not welcome here anymore, and Jarrett threatened Jeff, telling him not to show up in Philadelphia Sunday. Once Hardy heard this, he decided, you know, I'm buying a ticket to Bound for Glory. As for how that went, well, Jeff Jarrett made an unannounced appearance to talk about him. He told him not to step foot in Philadelphia, but he did. Jarrett mentioned how nobody affiliated with TNA, the fans themselves wanted nothing to do with him, and he straight up said, Nero, I'm calling you out. Bitch. I brought you into this organization, I'm taking you out. Hardy's new music plays, and there he is. Instead of talking, Hardy opted to fight. They had a mini striking match, and just as Jeff Hardy's got Jarrett, security separated them. Jeff was shouting, "Nobody wants you here." TNA staff came out despite all this. Hardy was somewhat explosive. He just randomly burst out at a moment's notice. A D-Lo chant intensified, which I found funny as said. And the fight itself, the brawl, just didn't have that fury to it in my eyes. It was stop and go, and like I said, it lacked heat, at least for me. But it was only the beginning of the feud. On that week's Impact, Jeff, along with his wife Karen, came out to address the events of Bound for Glory. Jarrett demanded Hardy come out in order to finish what he started at the event. He was angry over the fact that Dixie's back in power, and this meant Jeff was going to waltz his way back to his main event slot. He refused to allow this, and then he reminded everyone for the 17th time that he brought Hardy into TNA and even no-showed in an event before Victory Road. Regardless of the fact that people want him here, Jarrett did it. He then gave him two choices, either leave or suffer the consequences. Hardy knew that the fans want him, and the only one who was still bitching was Jarrett. It wasn't the fact that Hardy made mistakes that Jarrett wanted him gone. It was the fact that he will never be as over as him. That's what Hardy believed. He'll never light up a crowd like himself, and this is when he strikes. Now, this fight was a bit better. Security comes in, TNA officials come out, and D-Lo argues with Al Snow over who should be thrown out. Unfortunately for Jeff Hardy, he received a penalty kick in the grapefruits. The following week marked the first time Jeff Hardy wrestled a televised match since March of 2011. Before the match went down, Jeff Jarrett came out and complained about the lack of footage from Victory Road in March. He thought it was odd that TNA didn't showcase this because they were playing a video package of Jeff Hardy's. Jarrett once again complained about Turning Point 2006, but this was when the charismatic Enigma interrupted. The founder of TNA was looking for a fight, knowing very well that Hardy's got a match. He runs in there anyways, and like the Raw main event scene now, same story. Security comes out to separate them, but Jarrett knew that Bully Ray was going to come out, and as expected, Hardy struggled with him. He bounced him around with slams, knockdowns, and once Bully missed a splash, Hardy hit Twist of Fate and the Swanton to win the match. Afterwards, Christy Hemme wanted Hardy's words regarding his return, and he was happy with the W. He was talking about an optimistic future, but Jarrett comes in and attacks. Bully Ray didn't do him any favors, and this almost leads to a table spot, but Mr. Anderson quickly made this safe because of this attack team match was booked for the following week, with Anderson teaming up with Hardy, facing Bully Ray and Jeff Jarrett. The victory was heading towards the babyfaces, but Scott Steiner ruined everything, causing the DQ, and after the match, Unported continued the attack. Because of the continuous brawling between Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy, a match was made for Turning Point. Unported were very frustrated with Hardy wanting to get rid of him before the event. And I should note that the 6-man tag featured Steiner and Abyss. It provided the perfect opportunity for them to get rid of him, but they failed miserably. So it's come down to Turning Point. Jeff wants another chance, whereas Jarrett disbelieved in his redemption arc. He still held resentment from the last incident in 2006, and the match itself, well, let's talk about it. Right out of the gate, Jeff Hardy hits a damn Twist of Fate. 1, 2, 3, Jarrett takes an L. He was of course going to whine about this, but what was there to do? All he can do is beg for a rematch, and his request was accepted. Immediately, he goes on the attack with a few strikes. Let's go Hardy chant intensifies as the founder's putting a beating on him. This strategy of attacking Hardy before he can notice seemed to work, and now he was arrogant. Jarrett was taking his time with the strikes. Whisper in the Wind attempt goes south. Jarrett starting feeling himself, and the confidence level at this point was at an all-night high. Hardy tries building momentum but finds himself in the sleeper, ends up dropping him on his back, and once both men recover, they engage in a slugfest that is won by Jeff. It's of course Hardy. He finally starts to come back, almost steals the match, but is caught in stroke position. That's countered and almost leads to the figure 4. Hardy opts to cradle him and steals the match. The match itself was just there. It wasn't bad, but it's not something I'll say, ooh, I gotta watch it again. Despite the victory, Hardy had trouble coming his way as Jarrett whacked him right in the head with a chair. He shouted when it's over when he says it's over, indicating a potential rematch. You suck chance intensifies. Hardy's being dragged into the ring. He receives a stroke. Hebner refuses to count, but once he did though, Jeff countered into a pinfall attempt of his own, and I guess third time isn't the charm. It was clear that this feud was anything but over, despite the fact that Jarrett lost 3 times in a row. Later that week on Impact, Jeff Hardy came out to discuss Turning Point. He thanked the fans for being there for him and promised that he'll always be here for them as well. It was really looking like Jeff had Jarrett behind him and was focused on the world title scene, but Karen interrupted. She felt somebody had to come out and put him in his place, like world title, role model, who do you think you are? Of course, she had to mention her husband building this place for guys like Hardy. It even got Jeff's wife involved, and damn was she annoying. She was questioning his manhood. He responded calling her and her hubby 2 angry bitches. And Jeff Jarrett suddenly appears and the attack goes south. Hardy was smart enough to catch both of them. You know, I love that. Every time a babyface gets attacked, he falls to the valet/manager and gets low-blowed, but not this time. The following week, Jeff Hardy Jarrett decided to mock his rival by coming out all dressed like him. Upon realizing it was Jarrett, the fans began booing, and basically, the man couldn't understand why in the hell the guy who cuts dynamic promos, translation bad promos, a guy like that gets the fans' attention. But then Jarrett had it all figured out. He thought maybe it's because he's a low-life, degenerate, pathetic guy. Maybe that's the reason why he connects with the fans. It's because they're all those things. He even said that maybe one day the fans can humiliate the company they work for. Hardy heard enough and sprinted down to the ring, and instead of seeing the ropes as an invisible wall, opted to chase after Jarrett. Unfortunately, though, Daniels and Bully come in for the save. Van Dam Anderson come in and it turns into a brawl. Security enters the ring. Jarrett takes this moment to capitalize and leaves Jeff Hardy a battered man. At the same time, though, Hardy was still eyeing a world title shot. Jarrett still couldn't believe it. Like, this man, he's main eventing in a promotion I built. Jeff Hardy wanted slap notes to get over, and in the end, it seemed like he accepted the fact that Hardy wanted one more shot. But then he attacked him. The charismatic Enigma managed to bounce back and get rid of the founder, and seeing as he's desperate to get rid of him, Jeff Jarrett went to the top. He went to the general manager of TNA, Sting. Jarrett tried to remind him of the fact that the TNA World title has such an insane amount of value to it, and Jeff Hardy just pissed on it last March. Stinger told him not to get involved in Hardy's main event or he'll pay the price. Triple threat main event goes down, AJ Styles, Rude, and Hardy. Near the end, it's looking like Jeff's winning it, but Jarrett comes in and defies Sting's orders, and so he costs him the match. All of a sudden, Sting comes out turning that smile upside down. Why? Because he booked him in a cage match against Jeff Hardy at Final Resolution. Not only that, but if Jarrett wins, Hardy's gone from TNA. If Hardy wins, he's #1 contender for the world title at Genesis. Karen came out shouting yada, 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 whining about the match when Sting decides, you know what? You're going to be handcuffed to me. Why? It's because he wanted zero outside interference. As for this match, well, here we go. First of all, the match lacked in length. It was only 9 minutes. Because of this, it was really limited from a storytelling perspective. Like, I can't exactly think of many cage matches under 10 minutes that were good. This one comes to mind, but it's an exception. Right before the match, Sting revealed that if Jarrett loses, one of them is fired. Meaning Karen or Jeff himself. Once the bell rings, it's clear where the momentum shifted. Side headlock from Jarrett, and he was smart in wearing down Jeff with a continuous pinfall attempts. At one point, he almost screwed himself over. Hardy hits the axe handle, launches his opponent into the cage. Twists the Fate gets countered into the figure 4, and after a while, he managed to counter the hold. Even though Jarrett struggled with the figure 4, he was in full control at this point. He was taking time with his offense, and just as he tries to make an attempt out, Hardy catches up. He used the cage to his advantage in order to hit some aerial moves. He managed to hit Twist the Fate, and instead of going for the pin, he opted to climb out. Nope, he goes to the Swanton. Jarrett gets up, so he hits another Twist of Fate, and then Hardy attempts the Swanton, which went about as well as Zack Ryder's push at the time. He just bounced off the mat like that. This gives way to the stroke, and he calls to the door, and this is when the fans began shouting for Hardy. He managed to catch Jarrett and use the cage to his advantage once more. Fans rally him on, and this is when we get some drama. So Jarrett shoves Jeff into the cage door, which rebounds off Sting. This leads to Karen breaking free of him, and she slams the door into Hardy's face. Jarrett goes to the cover, and after a few seconds, Hardy kicks out. She tries bringing in the guitar, but Sting drags her away, and in the ring, Hardy catches Jeff Jarrett with a Twist of Fate. 1, 2, 3. Not a bad match, and it wasn't a bad way to end the feud, but it really should have felt more grand. I thought it was decent. It, of course, could have been better, but then again, it could have been worse. It's as simple as that. After the match, Sting promised to fire somebody on Thursday, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, why didn't they do it at the pay-per-view itself? But anyways, those two argued with each other later that week, and Sting decided to fix their problems by firing both of them. I love this segment, you know. Sting was stirring the pot, and you'd think he was lying. The fact of the matter is, he wasn't. Like, the stuff he was saying was true. He was talking about how Karen said there's 100 Jeff Jarretts, how Jeff was saying his wife should be the one who's taking care of the kids or whatnot, and it led to this huge argument. He's like, you know what, you both are fired. And you guys should check it out because Sting was absolutely insane. Jeff went on to challenge for the title. I'll get into that in a future video. And Jeff Jarrett focused on TNA in India. You know, they're expanding. Karen, I believe she disappeared for a long time, so there's that. What do you guys think of this feud? Please comment down below. And that's the first video. Make sure you hit the stroke on the like button and perhaps the swanton bomb on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.